it's Jen from Shabby Fabrics. You already saw the beautiful quilt behind me, and I hope you noticed all of the sweet details and why I fell in love with this quilt. It has a beautiful country look. This is from Sweetwater. It's called Hometown Christmas, and they use the overnight delivery collection from Moda Fabrics. There's so many unique features about this quilt that I love, including the shape. As you know, most quilts are longer than they are wider, but in this instance, this quilt is wider, which makes it ideal for being displayed behind a couch, which I love that. I can have a beautiful couch in front of that and display the entire quilt and see all the sweet details of it, including all of the applique, which when you purchase the kit in limited quantities, we have that available, by the way. Only 240 kits available. Those will sell out, I believe, fairly quickly, so be sure to pick up your kit if you too want to have this in your home. All of the applique is pre-fused and laser cut, and that just makes it so much fun. You can just jump into that and do all the fun embroidery details. Two of my favorite blocks are actually Personalize, where you can put your family's last name and the town in which your family resides. And so I put my parents' last name up there and the city where I was born, and I thought that was just a really sweet touch. And I wanted to go into, when you do personalize a project, sometimes trying to figure out how to work the embroidery of where the centering is has been a challenge for me. And I've been able to work through that and kind of discover some tips and tricks that you might find helpful. Before I jump into that, if you do decide to purchase the kit, we have a small, very affordable coordinating thread set available to stitch down your applique, so I just wanted to mention that. But let's jump into, hey, I do want to personalize my project. I love the idea of putting my family's last name on that. How do I go about that? First off, Sweetwater did a great job of putting the full alphabet both in the uppercase and lowercase in the pattern, which I love. You can jump right into that. They're having you cut your backgrounds to 4.5 by 12.5 for those two particular blocks that have the personalization on them. Creative Grids just happens to make a ruler that's 12.5 inches long, so when I was grabbing for a tool, it was an obvious fit that this was just ideal. I knew I had cut my fabric to the right width because it matched up my ruler, and I went ahead and drew a line down from the top 2 3/4 inches. I just felt like when it was sewn into the block, it looked right and looked centered. So for this particular project, I measured down from the top using my friction pen 2 3/4 inches. It's very important. In fact, it's critical. You're using an erasable marker because you don't want that line to stay there, but you need something there to help you line up. So I'll put that aside for now. The first thing I'd recommend that you do when you're personalizing a project with a phrase or a name, of course it could just be a phrase too, is to just write out the letters. I'll just put Bosworth family as an example, and the space between Bosworth and family counts as a character. And the goal here is to start from the sides and work my way to the middle to figure out what's my center letter or character or whatever it is you'll be embroidering. So let's start from the outside, and I'll start here, move my way in. There, those go together, those go together. My space goes together. So this is my center. My center is my H in this instance. So you could decide, do you want it to all be uppercase? Do you want it to be uppercase and lowercase? So let's see what we did here. It looks like we did a combination of uppercase and lowercase. So let's go ahead and we'll put that up there just for reference. I'll fold that here so we can just look at that. In the kit, you'll get a skein of black embroidery floss for doing your hand embroidery. I'm working on the Wafer 1 light box from Daylight. They have 3 sizes, the 1, 2, and 3 being the largest. This is more than sufficient for the project, so we're working on that one today. I love the feature of this light box because you can turn it on. It can get a different brightness. I'm turning it on very bright. I'm going to turn that right back down to where that's bright enough for me. I want to show you first, when I put this here, I think the overhead camera can see that. I can see the letters, I definitely see the letters, but when I turn the light box on, it's such a better experience. I'm not squinting. You will find 1,000 uses for this light box. So if you haven't gotten one, I certainly recommend you pick one up. We said the H is the first letter we're going to trace. That's our center. So I'm just going to fold that in half to establish my center. And I'm going to go use my horizontal line. See how it just scoots underneath all these letters? And I'm going to split. That H is going to be right along my fold. If you want to mark your fold, you can certainly do that, just as a line-up point. And I'm going to trace my H. And I've noticed as I measured most of these letters, they're about a 1/2 inch wide. Some are just a little bit more. So I'm going to allow about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 gap before I write the word family. So I'm going to go H, I'm going to put my H here, establish my gap, and write my F for family. So let's go up to that line. That's a nice little gap right there. I think that's a reasonable gap. And again, notice how I line up. This is how you keep everything straight and square to the project. And if I'm going to go back and do lowercase, I'll come back to this row. I'm going to reline up. I might scoot that in just a little bit closer. And here's the good news, guys. If you end up in the end not loving the spacing, something seems to be just a little bit off, you can go take it away with the heat from the iron. That's the beautiful part of the friction pen. And of course, I would just continue on with the word family, and then with the last name Bosworth, I would work the way back, T, the R, the O, and work my way backwards. Then you just literally sit back and look at it. Is this spacing exactly what you want? If it is, grab your embroidery floss, 2 strands, a needle, just a simple back stitch to accomplish that. If you decide, you know what, I don't think it's quite where I want it, it's not quite right. My favorite disappearing trick here is to simply take this to my ironing. And just like that, all the writing is gone and you can start again. This technique not only works for this adorable quilt behind me, but really when you want to personalize anything. I love showing you guys new things. If you want to be the first to know about new projects, new tutorials, new possibilities, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm always excited to bring you new content. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment. I'd love to get some feedback from you, and I'll see you next time.